everyone, it's your girl, Dr. Tommy, better known as Abba. So today I'll be talking about mental health in this COVID-19 Wahala pandemic crisis. Mental health is key. How are people dealing with stress during this pandemic outbreak? And we have a wonderful special guest today, y'all. I got my celebrity queen. She's a TV, radio celebrity host, self-care, mental health specialist. I mean, she's jack of all trades. Her name is Mrs. KIKI, Kerrie-Ann Thombs. I call her Queen KIKI. My big sis in Jamaica, Kingston. So thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Queen. It's more than a pleasure being here with you.
So I am so honored to have you on my Wellness and Wahala podcast. For you all that are tuning in for the first time, I'm a public health specialist, and I talk about public health wellness topics and also current affairs. Wahala. In Nigerian Pidgin English, Wahala means issues and problems. And right now, I believe a lot of people are experiencing, high anxiety and fear and stress. And mental health is not something that's really talked about right now that needs to be, on the forefront, from mental health breakdowns from frontline workers to mental health, just adjusting to a whole new schedule. People are out of their normal routine. So what tips can you give us to dealing with stress and fear and anxiety during this pandemic?
Here's the thing about this pandemic. It's really forcing a lot of persons to, it should be encouraging persons to take a look within to see what areas they might need to work on to survive this pandemic. What you tend to be finding happening a lot right now is persons are so concerned about the externals, how are the bills going to be paid? How am I going to survive? Especially those who are working on the front line, they're actually exposed to death and despair. And if they aren't careful, then they can take that on to themselves and even take that home, and they might even question their own mortality or even question God. But I say in this time, if we're going to be questioning God in this pandemic, then it means that we would have to question ourselves, because we are an expression of God, right? So in the first place, we won't get into the whole, conspiracy theory of this, COVID-19 or whatever it is, but with 8 billion persons in the world, approximately, everybody has freedom of choice. Freedom of choice. And what's happening now is that a lot of our a majority of the persons are running off old programs that have not served them well, but they were so busy in their regular lives, they never had to stop to pay attention to these incorrect programs, right? Yes. But now that the shutdown has happened and they're faced now with the internal struggles that they're having, you tend to find that I hear that domestic abuse and killings are on the rise.
Yes,
everywhere. And exactly, and I hear that, couples are the divorce rate is on the increase as well, because this is just showing the insecurities, the fragilities, the issues that were there and underlying for so long that it's now being put on that big billboard. So in terms of how we can manage stress in this pandemic, I think the first step is just to understanding a little bit more of who we are. And that just means what your programs are, what your beliefs are, what your insecurities are, what are the areas that you need to build up for yourself on an individual aspect before you head back out into the quote-unquote world when this entire ban is lifted. So at the end of the day, you have to really take account and work on self. Working on self is never an easy 1, 2, 3 effort, because you have to understand that you're dealing with years and years of being programmed. Your majority of the persons who are programmed have these insecure thoughts.
Wow.
I'm unworthy. I'm stupid. I can't make it. Life is hard. Life is full of struggles.
It's already programmed.
Nobody cares.
Yep.
Yeah. So we already have that negative programming. So, how do you tell someone with a negative programming for the last 30 years of their lives that, now here's what you can do? Now you really need to take a look at where those negative thoughts are coming from, and now you need to start positively affirming yourself. That's like night and day. But truthfully, it is the only thing that we can do right now in order to become better as individuals. individuals is just spend some time with ourselves. Spend some time with ourselves and start questioning what's the printout of our life showing us first and foremost. What is that printout of your life showing you? Because your life is going to dictate exactly what your thoughts have been creating.
Wow.
Right?
Yes.
So if you are having struggles and challenges financially, if you're having struggles and challenges in your relationship, if you're having struggles and challenges as in your role as a parent, if you're having struggles and challenges in your career or just individually as a person, it really goes right back to your thoughts. So you have to identify what thoughts you are having. When you wake up in the mornings and you open your eyes, what's the thought? Because we have 60,000 to 80,000 thoughts a day, and 75% and even more of those thoughts are negative.
Yeah, and most of them don't even come to pass. So the battle is in the mind more than internally than externally.
Exactly. So the battle really starts from the mind, but then what takes us further is the battle that we're facing wasn't done by us, if you get what I'm saying. So our earliest experiences between birth to 7 would have programmed our mind to see the world through colored lens, to see the world through a different perspective. And there's a saying that says there's nothing good or bad, it's just your perspective of it. And that is what's happening now. So most of us are running off subconscious programmings that are creating our future and our current situation. We don't like the printout of what it is, but instead of fixing it, we're focused on the externals, and now the externals have been taken away and stripped from us. We're left with nothing else but to look at ourselves realistically. And and it's not, I think, just like you said, some of these things were already programmed, from birth to 7 years. There's already patterns and generational even cycles that that have already been there and that has bondage on us. But I wanted to highlight some key statistics I pulled up from Jamaica specifically, but it's alarming, like gender-based violence and sexual violence and physical violence all over the world. But specifically, I pulled up the United Nations Spotlight Initiative statistics for Jamaica, and it states 28% of women experience physical or sexual violence over their lifetime. In 2018, 71% of girls under 18 who were victims of crime were raped. 2 out of 10 girls aged 15 to 19 years thought it was okay for their husband or partner to hit them. 20%, so that's mindset. 20% of Jamaican women report being sexually abused as children. This is 2018, so this is pre-pandemic. And now, this pandemic, they said the statistics is worse. So, sis, what do you think needs to be done? Because, having that mindset transformation, a lot of us don't have the tools. We don't have the coaches, the mentors, and the people that are around us, because many of us that are battling this crisis is passed down to us. You know what I'm saying? So just like you said, it was programmed as a child. Why? Because either you're programmed by your parents from birth to 7 years. So if they have a negative, mental health cycles, and you have signs of like abuse in the family, you saw violence in your family, those things are programming into that child, and it continues. And they never had anybody there. They never sought help, either through a counselor, through a self-care coach, any type of mental health specialist. So how can we break these cycles? Here's the first thing. It's not going to... All right. The first thing is we have to look at those who are in power, because they're the ones who wield the power to make these changes. And we have so many organizations out there who are doing their best and who are catering to persons who might be experiencing this. But unless you can tap into the psyche of a gentleman or a male who is the abuser, who is the aggressor, and find out where is that aggression coming from, because that aggression is going to be coming from the beliefs that he holds about himself and the beliefs that he holds about women on a whole. And unless the authorities or the powers that be who have the power to make a change start identifying more and more how to help these gentlemen first and foremost, because that's where it's coming from, then it might be a little bit more difficult to curtail. Because here's the challenge. The challenge is when you have a woman who is broken in terms of her self-image, her self-confidence, how she sees herself or views herself. And she finds herself, based on her low self-esteem, with a gentleman who is in this relationship for control, for power, for dominance, not necessarily for love. But because she's so insecure, she believes that he loves her. And his whole mandate is to make her feel like she's his subject. He's using her to boost his poor self-esteem and his poor self-concept. Unless we get into the psyche of him to find out why he's doing it, and then try to help the lady, to express to her that this is not necessarily love. This vicious cycle is going to continue. And here's why it's gotten worse over the years. Because number one, when someone is being or in an abusive relationship, love is involved. Low level concept of love, but love is still involved. So oftentimes they'll get hit and they'll turn around and they'll feel bad because they don't want to get the gentleman in trouble, especially if children are involved. It's these bonds and these ties that makes it so much more difficult to navigate this scope of domestic abuse. But what we have to do is, whoever it is that has the power, these organizations have to really not only address the lady, but also address the gentleman. So where are those initiatives that are going to help the gentleman come to terms with what it is that he is, why in the world do you think it's okay to inflict pain upon a woman? It means that he was never taught the concept of a woman. You get it? Yes. And that's where society has broken down. Then we also have the advent of pop culture, dance hall culture, whatever it is, and women have been placed in the same category as guns and money and cars and drugs, and we're in that same category. So or feminine energy or divinity as women have been put in question for a very long time. Then on the other end of the spectrum, we have our girls who are seeing sexuality as being equated to love. So I have to be a sexual being. I have to wear this. I have to carry myself a certain way. You know what I mean? Yes. Because this is what equates to love for me. So when you have our queens who are no longer behaving like queens because they were never taught, and then you have our men who were never taught how to be men, who are now using their abuse of women to feel more like men. It's a very vicious cycle. But all I'm saying is our organizations have to take a more direct approach in how they offer assistance, and know that regular counseling is not the only way to help, because you have to get persons to understand the power of who they are. Yes. And so my final thing is this: the power of who you are is this. When we die, it's been scientifically proven that an energy source lingers in the room. Science can only evolve as much as technology evolves. But here's the thing: years ago they used to tell us that we're just bodies. We evolved from the Big Bang Theory. But no, science with technology has evolved to say your energy lingers in the room after you die. Wow. And I ask, what is that energy? People will say, okay, that energy is your soul. Your spirit, your soul. And I say, exactly, it is your soul. So therefore, where does your soul come from? It would come from the source that created you. So it means, God. So it means that you have the spirit of the creator in you. Yes, so greater is he in me. And I say, and I say on a side, I say, for example, I am God being expressed as Kerrie. And I'm not blaspheming at all, because I'm not saying I am God, but collectively, every one of us. Because that's your Father. He created you and he's in you. Yeah. Every one of us in this world, all 8 billion of us, have the same energy. It's the same energy source that's keeping us alive. Yes. Right? Yes. But again, we have a broken concept of life, society, the community, politics, everything. Politics, everything have all influenced how we now see ourselves. And it's just a sad turn of events. But in this pandemic, the only way that persons can escape this pandemic unscathed is to actually go within and look within themselves. And just ask, what type of life do I want to live? What type of life do I deserve? Like a self-audit. Exactly, you have to. And like most persons, when they stand up in the mirror, they stand in the mirror for only 2 reasons. Either to criticize themselves or to fix something. People can't hardly even stand in the mirror and look at themselves dead in their eyes and say, I love you. And I think unless we're able to start doing that and start loving ourselves, then we're going to continue being lost sheep.
Right. And you just ended that suggestion on a good point about, loving ourselves. How can we love others, and serve others and even serve our Creator, when we don't even love ourselves and even know, the power that we have, just like you said, within us, greater is He. Yeah. I am love. I am light,
I am.
Those are the powerful things. Yes, I am. Right. Just knowing the power that you have. And that is just phenomenal, and breaking that type of mindset. And I just want to thank you, because you're one of the people that really God put in my life to break that mindset and to get my power back, because we are so programmed, and nobody sits down and takes the time to really help us. And I don't blame people, when they see you going through those type of cycles, and they've been through it too. They never sought help from the right source. So that gets me to my next point. Like, how can people contact you? What are the projects that you have? One of the things that I participated with you was a self-care, for the whole weekend, and it was a transformational. At first I was like, oh, is this a normal conference where, we're just going to sit down and take notes? I've been to one of those. I was really hesitant, but this was, I'm telling you all, it was life-changing. When I say transformational, so as I was saying, one of the great things and turning point in my life was meeting you and being able to go on that 3-day retreat. At first I was hesitant, like, I can't, go away for like 3 days. It's just going to be a conference, probably taking notes. And it was just transformational, like the mood, the spirit, just the ambiance. So I just wanted you to talk a little about that. And, what projects do you have in store now, even though we're in a pandemic, but, virtually, how can people also get in touch with you?
Well, first they can find me on Instagram at AlignedJA. That's ALIGNED, AlignedJA. And we're open for whatever services they might need. If they prefer a one-on-one, consultation, or if they want more in-depth e-health type services, we're there to offer that as well. And I think for me, here's what I'd like to change, sis Queen. Okay. I'd love to be able to change the narrative of the billions of people across the world, because what we tend to forget is that as much as we're talking about the gentlemen who are, abusive towards women, or the mother who might be abusive to her children, or the gentleman who rapes, or the gentleman who murders, it's so easy to look at someone's actions and just say, oh my God, no, you don't even worthy. You don't even deserve to be alive type thing. However, the same energy source is what keeps us all here. It just means that the person who is doing and committing these heinous acts and these heinous crimes, they have no idea about the truth of who they are. No, we know that we have persons who are just really, really evil. Genuinely just no care or regard, you know what I mean, for the world. But we have to remember that they were created too. Right. Because every child comes into this world pure. I have never seen a child born and just say, I'm going to take up a gun and kill. It's my mandate to rape. No, it comes from programming. The programming for society. You do have persons
society, the environment, family, bloodline, all of that.
Right. And then some persons might actually have mental health issues.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Many of them.
Various mental health issues that need clinical treatment that go undetected or unnoticed, because again, there's this taboo about mental health. They think when we say mental health and we speak about mental health, people automatically think of someone who needs to go in an asylum, right? But did you know historically, Queen, why it is that persons are so afraid of discussing mental health? Do you know where it came from?
No.
In history, when our slaves and our forefathers, for example, and I don't use the word slaves because it just means mental slavery more than anything else. You know what I mean? But when our forefathers were oppressed, or if they displayed any sign, quote unquote, of mental health issues, they were killed for it.
Wow.
Sometimes they were burnt.
So it's like a taboo, is a weakness.
So therefore it meant that if the other, if other forefathers were seeing their brothers, their mothers, their sisters being lynched and killed and, and suffering death because they had a mental health issue, then it means that my role is to pretend that I have it all together even when I'm crumbling.
Wow.
And that's the world that we live in.
And
we
that's
all
exactly
have been taught, right, to put on a brave face, to
put on a
bear it.
front.
We have to pray it through. Right, we have to do all of this. But the core fact is this: we have to really understand that our entire world is created from our thoughts. Our entire world is created on our thoughts. So we have two mothers who suffer the loss of their children, right? Yes. Two mothers. One mother loses her child and drowns in despair and sadness and anger and resentment and cannot get her life together, and her heart is literally broken, and she suffers in pain at the loss every day until she dies and takes her last breath. The other mother loses her child and says, you know what? I'm not going to allow this to kill me. I am going to give thanks for the fact that my child lived, and I miss my child, but I'll find some way to keep my child's memory alive. And let's say this mother starts a foundation in the name of her child, right? She starts this foundation, she gets contributions, and no, just in the loss of her child, she's been able to use that loss to bless the lives of others. That's the core of who we are.
Yes.
Every painful experience we have, Queen, is never for us.
It's a lifeline to help others.
There you go.
Powerful.
That's
Powerful, Queen. As you know, I think that is just a word in season and out of season. So during this pandemic, that's, I think, should be number one priority to work on, is transforming our minds, and not, be in the midst of fear, activate your faith. There's power in your word, just like you said, I am light, I am love, I am courageous, I am beautiful. There is power in what you say and what you have a vision, even if you don't see it physically now, but if you have dreams and vision, you can speak it into existence. You don't have to down yourself, because there's also power in saying negative words. I believe a lot of us are in bondage, and I was in a lot of bondage by talking down on myself and not having the confidence, in myself. And either whether it's being programmed, by the things that I've said or seen, or, society in general, and not necessarily having the tools. So please, you all, once again, align hard. GA. Yes, it's hard. But sis, there's people like
that's
you.
What I just want to say, that it is. It is hard though, because it's your mind, right? And here's the thing: you have to try and become greater than your environment, and that's the difficult part, because you're going to get up and you're going to know hardships all your life. You've thought all your life that life is difficult, and the money is hard to come by, and you're broke, and nobody loves you, and you've been trained to think this way, and so you create more of your reality. But when you tell someone who only knows this particular way of thinking that, hey, if you change your thoughts, you change your life, they can't believe that, because if they say to themselves, I am beautiful, but they really feel ugly on the inside, that will never work for them.
Right.
So one tip that I'm going to leave you with, because I just realized that I didn't give you a practical tip, and I want to leave people with something practical, is take a paper and literally write down all the negative beliefs that you might have about yourself. Look at your life, see how you're living. How's your finances? How's your relationship? How is your parenting skills if you're a parent? How is your health? How are you with yourself? What are your personal goals? Just look at a broad brush view of what your life is showing you. What is the printout of your life? And once you do that, write down the beliefs that you've been having, the incorrect beliefs, and literally write the opposite of those beliefs. So if your belief is, money is hard to come by, I'm not worthy of making money, everybody else has an ability to be rich but me, for example, you could flip that and say, money is wherever I make it. Like, money comes to me easily.
Yes.
I have all the skills that I need inside of me to earn money. I am capable of earning money.
Yes.
Once you do that, here's the key though. If you can get your phone, most persons have a smartphone right now, and literally take your recorder, the recording device on your phone, and record your voice saying what your new beliefs are.
Those affirmations,
Yes, affirmations. But here's when you use your affirmations the most to get through to your subconscious mind. Because remember, we're running on the subconscious scripts that have been running since we were 0 to 7 years old, right? So what we do now is, just before we go to bed, listen to the affirmations, because when we're falling asleep, that's when the subconscious mind becomes active, right? When we get into, just before we head into delta, which is like the deepest state of sleep, we head into a state called theta. And when we get into theta, that's where the imaginary world and reality coexist, right? So to speak. So when you're listening in a state of theta, by the time you hit delta and you're fast asleep, you're literally programming your subconscious mind. And you're hearing your own voice. So this becomes even more real. Right? And if you have this thing and you play it throughout the day without you making any major effort or conscious effort, you'll start feeling differently and start thinking differently. But the key is commitment, discipline, and devotion to yourself. You have to want better, to do better, to make the changes that you want.
Wow. Commitment, discipline, and devotion. I love that practical step and writing, down. So all of you all that's listening, all my fans, Wellness and Wahala podcast, please use these steps and these tips. It is extremely important to get back in alignment. That's why I love what you said, the Align JA. You can reach her on Instagram, on all the social media outlets, and you can get the assistance that you need. And, I thank God for the power of technology. She's based in Jamaica. You can be based anywhere in the world. Through the power of technology, you can reach out by social media, by email. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much
for your wonderful tips. And I will leave you all with the African proverb of the week. I found this great African proverb. It says, "You cannot beat a child to take away its tears." Once again, you cannot beat a child up to take away its tears. And it's basically saying that, it's a mental health African proverb that, you're trying to discipline the child. You can't beat them, beat it in them. There's ways to cope with this, and there's patterns and cycles that we need to stop, and there's more power in words than trying to beat it into somebody or using violence or something negative. So thank you so much for the power of your words, Mrs. KIKI, Queen. One love and bless up. I miss you guys.
Blessings. Thank you.